Hey dear friends, here I'm back with another video, and today I want to talk about chord melody because I got a lot of questions. How can I play chords in between lines, and will that also help me to play chord melody improvisation? And I really have been thinking about this a lot because the question is so big, right? Because the question basically is, how can I harmonize a melody, right? And there are myriads of ways how to harmonize a melody, and maybe some of you also know this video from Jacob Collier, who says
infinite ways to harmonize everything.
because the melody is always stronger than the harmony. What does that mean? That means our ears always hear the melody first, sort of, but not the chord. So let me explain. If I play, let's say, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, let's play it on one string. Right, so I'm playing in C major. So a very cheap trick to harmonize any melody is parallel motion, which always sounds very fancy, but which basically means we're using one chord, and on the guitar this is easy, like one shape. Let's use the C major. And we're going to use this shape and just like play. Let's have another shape. Yeah, so by the way, this is a technique that Jim Hall very often uses in his solo. He is just like having the melody harmonized by parallel motion. And maybe it sounds funny to you, but for sure you can still hear the song, right? Still hear the melody, I mean. So how can we approach learning to play chord melody arrangements if there are so many possibilities? So I thought, how would I do it? I'm just going to sit down with my guitar and improvise until I find a spot where I have like a melody, where I'm not playing like lines, but a melody, and then I will stop in my tracks and then just try to harmonize it. Because I think the one way to think about it is that we all are sort of repeating ourselves more or less, right? So we'll have maybe also melodic ideas that will repeat, and then if we have a melodic idea that repeats, we can sort of harmonize it for ourselves and then use it as a lick that we for ourselves generated, which I found much cooler than to like try to play a chord solo in the traditional sense, like Wes Montgomery or George Benson, or you know. And I love those players, or Chopaz, right? I love those players, nothing wrong with them. I absolutely think you and I should check it out and play those chord solos to understand what is happening there. But when it comes to my own playing, I realized I don't want to even play a whole, I don't even want to play a whole chorus or the next chorus, only chord solo. I'm much more interested in playing lines and then maybe a longer time of a harmonized line. So let's say I would be playing, Autumn Leaves. I always play the chords first, just to get into the song. Let's stay with the first 8 bars. And then I'm just going to improvise. And when I find something, I can actually stop playing and talk. And when I find something, I'm going to stop, think what I play, try to repeat that, think on which chord I am, and try if I find something, 2, 3. Okay, already found something. This is something I very often play. I very often play like 2 notes, whole tone apart. Sounds cool. So I have this on the E flat major. E flat major 7. And then I play this on the A minor, A half diminished. Right, and now I can think, how can I harmonize it? the easiest way is to just play the freaking chord that is there, right, and be happy. So that means we play a chord and we move the voices. I'm sure you all know that. For example, right, you could play like this 13 chord, and then you can add the 9, you have the root, right, like this. Just kidding, but like this. Right, and like this, you can just like keep the lower structure intact. Also, right, like with an A minor, that would also be super typical. Right, so we keep the low part of the chord and we just move the melodic line. I think this is a typical guitaristics thing, and I'm actually not too fond of it because the chord's so static. I find that boring. And if I play something that, like this, also here, like with my example, then I would rather think, how can I play it with some voice leading, right? And I can do that by thinking about other options. This can be a very intuitive thing where just stuff comes out, but it can also be a thing where you sit down and think about your options, like your other possibilities. I mean, so if I'm on an E flat major chord, I know, and that comes from music theory, that I can use the chord on the 3rd degree in E flat major, which would be like the G minor 7, or the C minor 7, which would be on the 6th degree. So I already know that I can use different voicings to harmonize the same chord. Also, I'm already pissed off because I'm here. That means I don't have so much space for my chord. Maybe I play it here. Right, then maybe I play the E flat like this. Right, or maybe like this. Let's find something. No. And then we have to imagine the E flat in the bass. Maybe I can play it like this here as well. Sorry. Now I have it. Or maybe I can play it like this, right? So the idea is you improvise and you find a melody and you try to harmonize the melody. Let's have another example. I'm starting over. So maybe this one on the G minor. I'm always thinking, where else could I play? Because of the chord, right? So I'm having G minor. So this is another thing that you can do, is always to think about the 5 chord, right? You have a chord, you have the melody on the chord, and that's the center of your world for that moment. So that means it's the tonic, even if it's not the tonic, but you think about it like this, and then you think what would be the 5 chord, and then you harmonize your melody with the 1 chord and the 5 chord, right? That would be the G, minor would be the 1, then the F I would harmonize with the D7, which is the 5 chord. Right, like this I have something going on, G minor. Instead of playing something like, I don't know. Right, I find that lame. I would rather harmonize it. Basically, there is not one approach how you can do it, but there are many approaches, right? Another approach would be, which I did many years ago, to have like a jazz standard that is one key, like, you know, one of those here, and then write down only the melody, practice only the melody, and then try to harmonize it with the most basic chords, like 1, 4, 5, and look how far you can get with that, right? That's coming very close to the idea to somebody who's playing the guitar at a party. You know, those guys and girls that can accompany any tune that's coming up. They're not necessarily always playing the original chords from the recording, but they're always going back to like the chords that are the 1, the 4, and the 5 in this key, and they can accompany a lot of songs like this. If you can't do this, here some other songs that I want to suggest that are easy to play by ear. You can mumble the melody if you're like me and can't sing, just sing it somehow and try to find those chords, because this will give you a general idea about how harmony works, right? And tension and release, right? And yeah, just to hear how chords fall, because in the end it's all an intuitive way, a thing to do, but in the beginning it's thinking and later on it's intuitive, right? We have to understand stuff and then make it part of ourselves so that we can play in an organic way. And I want to mention some like books, that can be helpful, right? There's so many things that you can do. This book here, for example, is really cool for drop 2 voicings, and if you want to harmonize melodies, like also in the style of Wes Montgomery, he's also talking about this 1-5-1-5 principle that I just mentioned, which I just broke down to a very bare minimum, but this is a way for harmonizing melodies that's helpful. And also we can learn so much from pianists, checking out what they're doing, and because, right, we learn those songs and then we have one chord like the melodies over 1 E flat major 7 chord, and then we can, just like I mentioned, try to play all kinds of E flat major 7 voicings that will fit the melody, but that's not what's happening in reality. There's happening so much more stuff, because since, as I said, the melody is always stronger than the harmony. Here's an example of what I mean, right? You can see a very easy melody, but what did he do to it, right? And stuff like this is super interesting, and then it helps to have your music theory down, and then you can, you know, have the inspiration going on, but you can also just, like, if you don't find anything, think, experiment, think, oh, maybe I can play a 2 chord, maybe I can play a chromatic 2-5-1 leading into this thing. And then you have a lot of options all of a sudden, right? So here's another book that I really like. It's How to Comp. It's a very good book for accompaniment, right? For me, playing a solo and playing chords is not like completely apart, right? It's not like 2 things. One thing informs the other, sort of. And if you're working on your comping and you don't have, if you only have 1 chord, you know, with 1 top note in a given song, it's going to be really hard to have a melody going on there, right? So basically that's another thing that you can do, right? Just like take 1 chord and play a melody, maybe, on the B string, on the E string, so that you have a lot of place for the chords below, and then look what you can find below and harmonize all the notes of the scales, right? So this book is really good. And this book is also very good because I like it so much because there are many examples of what pianists do and how they harmonize melodies. There's also this other concept that is like, right, you have, let's say, a major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then there are like certain tricks for certain notes of the scale that you can just like remember how to harmonize a 9 on a major scale, or how to harmonize a flat 13 on a G7 chord. Other people have already done that before. Maybe we can learn from it, you know. So we have a bag of tricks that we can, that we can, you know, sort of use, try, and maybe even dismiss if we don't like it, but we're not getting stuck with one way of doing things, right? Another very good book that I don't have the cover anymore because it's like 30 years old is the Chopin's book, and he has, of course, you know, like the chord substitutions, you know, substituting chords of course helps with harmonizing stuff, and also he had those guidelines, I don't know how to say it. I did another video about that, how you can play like, you know, chords across the fretboard. Stuff like this you can also use like a lick, right? You can choose your landing point, and then you just play this gallant, this chord lick, right? Like we use licks for improvisation, we can use chord licks and just implement them in a certain part of a form and look if that works. And we can just do it in the beginning also, and maybe not the most musical way. We play the form, we improvise over the form, and every time in the specific place we play that specific thing just to get a feeling for that thing. And yes, this is also a little different, but also very interesting, because this book just like, you know, talks about how you can understand the chord progression in standards, but also how there are many chord progressions that repeat itself. And I think everything has to do with everything else, because if you understand what's happening in a tune, then you can make choices, and then you can look what other people did. So yeah, how to play chord melody is really like a loaded question. I just wanted to give you my thoughts on it. I realized for myself I'm not exactly the great chord melody player, but I'm very interested in it, and there's so many ways to do it. And depending on your level, if you're a beginner, I think just like to start with basic music theory and trying to harmonize your melodies for yourself would be a start. And later on, maybe they come in an organic way when we play. So that's it for today, and I'll see you next week. Bye.